Felicity was a college-set, coming-of-age TV show that aired in the 2000s. The brainchild of J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves, the show became a critical darling and a primetime necessity. It followed Felicity, a girl who drastically changes her plans of attending Stanford University to follow her crush to New York and attend the University of New York instead. University of New York because New York University did not want to be affiliated with the show. The series followed Felicity through friends lost and friends found, loves lost and loves found, and becoming a woman through the tribulations of college life. One of those tribulations, as depicted in episode 16, was that of losing her precious virginity. This episode, titled Fugue, aired on March 2nd, 1999, and saw Felicity full of palpable regret. The situation is complicated, and she loses her virginity to a guy she knows but doesn't know that well, and is filled with sorrow the entire episode. This was a common thread of virginity in TV shows and in movies, especially for young women. The topic of girls losing their virginity was much more serious and somber than the topic of boys losing their virginity, which contrastingly was an affair met with laughter and a celebratory air. On July 8, 1999, American Pie was released to a lot of love, both from audiences and some critics. Audiences made it one of the most successful movies of the year, while critics with a more positive view of the film appreciated its humor and, more importantly, its heart. American Pie told a story of 5 friends on a quest to lose their virginity. Through much trial and error and many, many laughs, they find themselves in ridiculous situations, hilariously awkward situations. Overall, the story was one of lightheartedness, with the boys' gamification of losing their virginities being viewed as a funny concept. There are stories of teenage girls attempting to have sex for the first time or planning to, and the framing of these stories are usually pretty downtrodden. The girl may want to lose her virginity, but people around her, like her friends or her parents or older siblings, will talk her out of it and tell her to make sure that she's ready. And yes, you should always make sure that you're ready to have sex before having sex, but you understand what I'm saying. There's a difference here. The question of virginity is asked very differently depending on who we expect to answer. It wasn't entirely one-sided.
And this one time, at band camp, I stuck a flute in my pussy.
Excuse me?
What, you don't think I know how to get myself off? Hell, that's what half of band camp is. Sex ed. So, are we gonna screw soon? Because I'm getting kind of antsy.
Almost 1 year after that Felicity episode, TV sweethearts Eric Foreman and Donna Pinciotti would lose their virginity to each other, and there were no consequences, no overwhelming regret for Donna, no pregnancy, no heartbreak, just awkward sex that eventually got better.
I can't believe Lori bit me. I hope she didn't give me slut rabies.
Still, the trope is overwhelmingly common. It's annoying in films, sure, but it is a trope that really only holds up a mirror to reality. When a girl has sex, there's a lot of stigma. Older generations are disapproving of quote-unquote fast girls, and when a girl has sex, her reputation is quickly changed. A lot of slut-shaming goes on. Whereas with boys, they might be given a pat on the back for not being a virgin anymore.
It's not that much to ask, Nips. Sid's almost 17. He's got to get laid before his birthday, otherwise he can't be my friend, obviously.
What the fuck are you talking about, Tony?
For a long time, films had no problem perpetuating this social behavior of punishing or stopping girls from having sex while encouraging and rewarding boys for doing the same thing.
James! Oh, baby, you call this serious? A boy his age want to know about these things, the most normal thing in the world. And he ain't a boy no more. Shucks, he's a man. Come here, Junior.
Mama, where'd you find that? I've been looking all over for it.
Yours, Thelma?
Yes.
That's yours? Yes. Well, young lady, you sit down here right now. Right now, I mean it. Just sit down and tell me what the hell you doing reading this filthy piece of trash.
Films about teenage boys wanting to lose their virginity were always told through a comedic lens. American Pie, Superbad, Sex Drive. And for young girls, the stories of their virginity were much more inextricably linked to dramas and to tragedy.
Grace, I am so sorry. know it's a shock, and I feel terrible for you and your family, but we didn't do it. He didn't die because you and I had sex.
Yes, he did.
Now, films have been made where teenage girls have their own pact to lose their virginity, like in the film Little Darlings, where two 15-year-old girls compete with each other to see who can have sex first. But even in a film like this, the story ends with the girls regretting having sex and feeling miserable for a fair bit, an ending that reminds girls to wait until they're ready. The sexism is obvious. For boys, sex is an experience that deserves to be had, and for girls, they have to regret it, immediately get pregnant, or immediately have their heart broken and their world forever changed. But there's another side to its sexism. This idea also fails to see the vulnerability in boys, to see boys as needing to be prepared for sex. It fails to see them as needing any kind of protection. And this lends itself to the issue of sexual assault and domestic abuse against men not being taken as seriously as when it affects women. There's a movie called Tadpole from the year 2003, I think, where a 15-year-old boy is coerced into sex with a middle-aged woman. And the movie is supposed to be a comedy. There's no one around them sees anything wrong with the situation. The trope is just very damaging all around. Over the years, though, we've started to see a reevaluation of these raunchy comedies that usually focus on teen boys by redirecting the focus toward teenage girls.
There's a ton of movies about guys losing their virginities, and there's not a lot of really good ones about girls.
In the years since Felicity, we've gotten more characters who just lose their virginities and after feeling awkward for a little bit, begin to enjoy sex just as much as their male peers, or maybe they don't enjoy sex at all, but they go about their lives like normal instead of slipping into a depressing PSA. Now we have movies like The To-Do List, Blockers, Booksmart.
Oh, AAA takes the lead.
Don't call her that.
Everybody calls her that. She gave roadside assistance to 3 senior guys last year.
You hear them getting degrading nicknames?
You know what the worst part is? All the fucking girls call me that too. I knew like Ben and Max and Dick Splinter would say stupid shit. I didn't think the girls would too.
And Plan B. But before I talk about these movies and their clever reframing of the raunchy comedy, I have to talk about Sexual double standards are ubiquitous. It's in songs, it's in movies, TV shows. In 2018, Michael Marks conducted a study on the sexual double standard in the real world, wherein he and his researchers recruited over 4,000 participants to learn about their perceptions of other people. The participants spoke at length about people they knew, some of which they would even call their friends, and when the topic of that person's sexual activity came up, something interesting happened. As the perceived sexual partners of women increased, the respect participants had for this person decreased. Women were increasingly derogated as the number of sexual partners increased. This has been the case for centuries. Take the myth of the chastity belt, the idea that men going away on business trips would lock up their wife's pussy to keep other men from sliding in the DMs. Historians have called the myth out for what it is, but the existence of the tale and its perpetuation throughout the many, many years is a testament to a general societal fear of female sexuality. This fear has been exemplified in quite a few stories over the years, the most popular of which probably being Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. Hester Prynne, after having an affair with Arthur Dimmesdale, what a name, is shamed by her community and shunned into isolation. She's made to wear a r.a.d, a brand that reminds her and everyone else of the adultery she's committed. The novel covers themes of guilt, societal expectations, and the like. Hester Prynne refuses to name the person she's had sex with, and he refuses to come forward on his own, so he can't be and isn't shamed. In 2011, when Easy-A came out, it served as a parallel to The Scarlet Letter, but one that would see many different versions of Arthur Dimmesdale not just not being shamed, but being rewarded for his sexual escapades, while Olive, our Hester, was punished. I was just starting high school when I went to see this movie in theaters, and after just one trip to the movies, it managed to do away from the things I had learned from other TV shows about the sex lives of women. Olive Pendergast is a virgin whose best friend is like trying really hard to get her to have sex. Olive is sort of invisible, even though she's played by Emma Stone. When she pretends to have lost her virginity to impress her friend,
Finally,
Now you're a super slut like me.
And then pretends to have sex to help another friend, she goes from being invisible to becoming infamous. This movie, as well as being a fucking hilarious delight, is one of the more upfront critiques of the sexual double standard. As Olive pretends to have sex with these guys who essentially become her customers, their social status goes up. Girls want to date them. Guys who didn't want to associate with them want to be friends with them. And as more stories about these sexual exploits spread around the school, this trend continues. The guys become more socially accepted while Olive becomes more socially rejected. She even loses her best friend. Yeah, the one who was pressuring her to lose her virginity in the first place.
Sorry if I think it's a best friend's duty to let her know that everyone, and I do mean everyone, is calling her a dirty skank.
Well, do you think I'm a dirty skank?
You know, I didn't want to believe it, but I guess it's true.
The stories and the lies get out of control until Olive has no choice but to come clean. And when she does, when she explains how these rumors got out of control, the people who judged her so harshly have no choice but to confront their own narrow-mindedness, to ask themselves why the boys Olive was allegedly having sex with benefited, while everyone continued to put Olive down. Easy-A wasn't the first movie to consider these double standards, but it's the one I wanted to start with because I think it opened a door for more sex-positive, female-led films to be made and to be in the mainstream. 3 years after Easy-A, writer and director Maggie Carey would make a film that didn't call out the ubiquitous double standard by shining a light on it. It did so by, instead, making a raunchy sex comedy in the vein of American Pie or Sex Drive, but one led by an 18-year-old sexually curious girl. In the to-do list, Brandy Clark is a valedictorian, Georgetown-bound student living in Boise, Idaho. She's only ever had one relationship in her life, and she broke it off so she could focus on her studies. After graduating and having a weird makeout session with a hot guy by accident,
Yeah, you're not who I was looking for.
she decides she wants to lose her virginity to him before college. With the help of her more sexually experienced older sister Amber, she makes a list of everything she wants to try before doing the deed.
69?
Titty fuck, blowjob.
Wow, I had no idea that you could be so
sophisticated,
slutty. There are things on this list that I haven't even done, Brandy. This is awesome.
She treats the list as an experiment, checking off each task and writing an evaluation on it. Ultimately, Brandy is just trying to figure out what she likes and why. I love this scene where she decides she's going to get finger banged at a party and she runs into her good friend Cameron, and after seeing him double wash his hands, she decides, yes, that's the guy I want to get fingered by.
Did you just double wash?
Yeah.
Brandy is the kind of person who is very methodical, very practical, and very serious. Brandy's sister, her friends, her boss, her co-workers, all of them never hesitate to tell her that she's too uptight, that she needs to learn how to lighten up. And as she goes through with her list and goes to parties and experimenting with this and that, she actually does start to lighten up. She even plays a few pranks. But then it reaches a point where everyone thinks she's crossed the line and she gets frustrated. The whole thing calls back to the Madonna whore complex. When Brandy is too uptight or too virginal, no one takes her seriously and they want her to loosen up. Then when she lets loose up to and including having these sexual experiences, they want her to tighten up. There's no in between. There's only one extreme or the other.
What are you thinking? What would have happened tonight if I wasn't here?
I think I would have swallowed. I'm serious.
I just got that, and that's not funny.
When Brandy does finally lose her virginity, she isn't sad afterward. She doesn't get paid comeuppance by immediately getting pregnant or getting her heart broken. She has sex, and the only thing she gets mad about is that the guy she wanted so badly doesn't even last a full minute before blowing his load.
Did you just
Yeah? Didn't you?
have an orgasm?
Yeah.
No, that was like less than a minute.
And it's only then that she realizes that when people say sex is important, it's true, but it's also at the same time not the huge deal everyone makes it out to be. We live in a culture that is obsessed with sex. It's everywhere. Her view on sex is very balanced. She recognizes it as something that is important because of the emotions that come with it. Cameron had a crush on Brandy the whole time she was experimenting with him, and she didn't realize that he actually wanted to be in a relationship with her. So when she goes about checking things off her list with other people, he's heartbroken. And that's when she begins to understand the complexity of sex. Yes, it's serious business when it comes to people and their feelings, but it's not the end-all be-all that the world makes it out to be either.
I need to know that you're okay.
Dad, I'm fine. Seriously. You don't have to worry about me.
Half a decade after the To-Do List fully reframed the raunchy sex comedy, Blockers hit theaters as one of the better comedies to come out in a while. Blockers follows 3 teenagers and their parents on prom night as the girls make a pact to lose their virginities. When their parents catch wind of this, 2 of them, Mitchell and Lisa, are horrified and stop at nothing to keep their daughters from having sex. While the third one, Hunter, initially only tags along to keep Mitchell and Lisa from doing something stupid and embarrassing their kids.
This is not a big deal. They're teenage girls. They have sex. Do you like freak out when you see a bee fucking a flower?
Each parent has a different reason for wanting to stop their daughters from completing the pact. For Hunter, the worry isn't his daughter having sex. He thinks it's a natural thing that teenagers their age do, especially on prom night. The thing that ends up worrying him is that he knows his daughter Sam is gay, and he fears peer pressure is going to force her into having sex with a guy.
What happened is that my daughter was kissing Chad even though she hated it, and I've been dragging this situation for you 2 fucking idiots.
For Sarah, she's afraid that if her daughter Julie has sex, it'll cement her relationship with her boyfriend to the point that Julie will want to follow him across the country for college, leaving Sarah all alone. Sarah is projecting because that's exactly what happened to her, which left her a single mom. Plus, she's afraid that if Julie leaves, she'll die alone.
I'm probably gonna die alone and won't be found for a really long time until one day someone will be walking by with our golden retriever and the dog is just gonna lose its shit, and then they're gonna call the police, and then they're gonna come in and find me draped over the tub with my feral cats eating away at my hair.
Her fear is equal parts her wanting to protect her daughter from the heartbreak she experienced and wanting her daughter to stay close to her because she has no one else. Mitchell's reason is much more of a stereotypical, overprotective father who doesn't want his daughter Kayla to have sex for arbitrary reasons, and he still feels like he needs to protect her from everything, not quite realizing that he raised her to be able to take care of herself.
You did not have to save me tonight, Dad. You taught me how to do that a long time ago.
The movie is very self-aware about the double standard. When screenwriter Kay Cannon was asked if she would direct this movie, she found something personal in it. Cannon identifies as a feminist, but still wondered how she'd react in this situation when her daughter gets older. She recognized that even the most progressive of parents can slip into this behavior if they feel like their children could get hurt. Even a person who is aware of feminism and tries to uphold it can perpetuate sexism through internalized misogyny. It's so refreshing that the movie took this turn with Cannon directing and with Leslie Bibb being cast as Lisa. Apparently the original script was all fathers who were concerned about their daughters having sex, and while a story like that still had the potential to comment on the sexual double standard, including a mother in the story added another layer of subtext. When Mitchell's wife Marcy finds out what they're up to, she's disappointed, but especially so in Lisa.
Did your dad try to stop you when you lost your virginity?
It's totally different.
It is not different, it's a double standard. Oh, when a guy loses his virginity, it's no big deal. It's celebrated, but if a girl does, it's some sort of big loss of innocence?
Yes.
But come on, you guys.
In the end, after a series of unfortunate events and comedic dumbassery, the parents realized that they raised their daughters well. They raised kids who were confident, smart, and could make their own decisions. And they also realized they took things way too far. Lisa accepts that her daughter has to be her own person, and that while she still has friends in Mitchell and in Hunter, being alone could be good for her too. This movie's been described as a sort of Trojan horse. It looks like one thing. From the trailers and plot lines, one could easily come to the conclusion that it's a sexist, ass-backwards way of looking at female sexuality. But the reality is that it only presents itself as such, in order to subvert the trope. I also love this movie because even though it is about 3 high school girls making a sex pact, it's not very sexual, and the young cast themselves aren't sexualized.
But none of us are sexualized. Kay was really cool about that, and she always made us feel really comfortable. It was just like I never felt weird. I mean, we were dealing with sex. It was like my first like sex scene, you know, and those things are nerve-wracking, especially at my age. And
Yeah.
It was awesome.
One of the more uncomfortable elements of the high school raunchy comedy is the hypersexualized teenager. This movie has a much more mature, respectful, and honest way of looking at teenage sexuality by not shying away from the awkwardness of it all, or showing the teens not as sexual objects but as the curious and uncertain teenagers that they are. It's a very refreshing take on the story, and did I mention it's funny as hell?
I'd still be down to do it, but maybe like, you know, when we get to know each other a little more. Like, maybe Monday?
Lastly, we have Natalie Morales' Plan B. This one loosely falls into the category of cherry-popping comedies, because it only begins with the character wanting to lose her virginity, but the plot develops into a quest for the Plan B pill. Still, this movie has a lot of good things to say about sex, the sexuality of teen girls, the poor sex education in American schools, and the importance of establishments like Planned Parenthood. After straight-A, straight-laced student, and perfect daughter Sunny throws a party with a plan to have sex with her crush, she loses her virginity, and it isn't until the morning after that she realizes the fucking condom was still inside of her. She freaks out, and she and her best friend Lupe try to get the Plan B pill at a local pharmacy, but after the clerk refuses to serve them, they have to travel all over the state to look for the pill. They look in a convenience store, in the supply of a drug dealer, and eventually find themselves at the closest Planned Parenthood location, only to find that its doors have closed for good. The whole movie is so funny and so heartwarming, but it's when you get to this part that you're reminded of the gravity of the situation. It's an adventure comedy, but the thing that's highlighted above all is the reality that something as simple as contraception can be that hard to find. So hard that looking for it becomes a quest. It also has a great friendship at the center of it and a sweet romance with a rock star. Throughout the journey, Sunny starts to feel bad about herself. She calls herself a slut.
So I'm literally just a dumb slut who was very stressed out.
An idiot because she lost her virginity. It's hard in the moment for her to realize that she lives in a world where people want her to evaluate herself as exactly that. The tropes we see in these stories, the slut shaming, the pearl clutching at female sexuality, all of these tools are meant to stifle sexual freedom, and as the quest goes on, Sunny does start to feel stifled. And this is someone who believes in sex positivity and starts this discussion in health class after they're shown a video warning female students about having sex.
Just because the guy can tell if the upholstery was ripped by the other passengers. So then the car can never get back that new car feeling again. Yeah?
You can't tear the upholstery. That's a myth.
The gist? Living in a society that upholds this sexual double standard where it's spoon-fed to you all the time can affect even the most progressive thinking people, can make them afraid of even experiencing sex. It's about how the bodies of women are policed in such a way that you begin to think the chastity belt wasn't entirely a myth. It just took a different form. And here's my conclusion. All of these movies are taking the right steps in the right direction. There's still a ways to go, but these movies make me hopeful about what's in store for this genre. They not only tell girls that no, you're not a freak for being interested in sex, but these movies are also a little bit more open about sexuality. All three of these films share, either through a small moment or an important plot line, an element of a same-sex relationship. From the to-do list,
it's crazy freshman year. I fucked my r.a.d the first week. Man, I wonder what she's up to.
Was it a girl?
Yeah.
to the relationships and blockers and Plan B, these movies are more open about experiencing sex and that it's not just black and white. It's a welcome deviation from the raunchy comedies of yesteryear where a same-sex experience would likely never happen, or if it did happen, be made into a punchline. I look forward to seeing more of these stories, especially after a childhood full of shows and movies where the sexuality of girls were repressed. Hey guys, I am really sorry for how this is gonna sound. I am recording it on my phone instead because my microphone is doing some stuff that I don't really understand. I just wanted to say that this part of the video I was originally going to focus on the hypersexualization of black girls at a very young age and how when black women do embrace their sexuality, people get really upset about it, like with WAP and Chloe Bailey. But that topic is just so broad that I feel like it deserves its very own video, where I can not only discuss that, but also discuss the significance of shows like Insecure, Girlfriends, and Chewing Gum. So yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and go to the conclusion. Stay alert for part 2 of this sex in media series, I guess that's what I'm gonna call it. I have no fucking idea. In the meantime, just watch Khadijah's video on Chloe Bailey because it's Khadijah and they're brilliant. So like, yeah.